Okay, yeah, why don't we go ahead and start streaming? So you're all set there?
Hank, where's your audio going to come from? Does it come out of the computer? No, from the
Out of this.
TV? Yeah. Just going to set that here, and then once you start, I'll come grab it.
Are we on? Okay. Welcome, everyone. It's Earth Day. My name is Mark Schrupp. I'm with the Detroit Wayne County Port Authority, and we're here to announce the results of a year-long study that we did to measure the carbon footprint of the Port Authority. But I want to start with a nice video that we did that gives you a good summary of our program, and then we'll talk a little bit after that.
Wayne County Port Authority is taking climate change and air quality seriously.
We know that moving bulk materials for manufacturing, construction, and road building is important and provides good paying jobs for our community.
But using fossil fuels to power all that work raises global temperatures and threatens our environment.
It also creates poor air quality and negative health outcomes for Metro Detroiters.
It's time to do something about it. Working with our community partners and scientists, the Port Authority brought together the terminal operators who make up the Port of Detroit to measure our carbon footprint and develop actionable strategies to lower carbon emissions,
improve air quality, and reduce other health impacts from port activity. In the near term, we'll add lower carbon fuels to our ships, trucks, and equipment.
Over time, we'll switch to battery electric and possibly hydrogen fuel cells.
And we'll do it with transparency and public accountability. Together, we'll create the green Port of Detroit,
where good paying jobs and a clean and healthy environment work hand in hand. Stay connected and join us. Visit portdetroit.com/decarbonization project.
Again, welcome to the Detroit Wayne County Port Authority. We're here on Earth Day to announce the results of our year-long study of the Port of Detroit's carbon emissions. And we're also announcing our strategies to reduce those emissions with a goal of reaching net zero by 2040. With funding from the state of Michigan, we were able to engage scientists from Tunley Environmental and partner with Southwest Detroit Environmental Vision to embark on this project. Our goal was to first measure carbon emissions from all of the activities in the Port of Detroit. That includes the fuel burned on ships, in cargo handling equipment, conveyors, and in trucks that haul that cargo away. The Port of Detroit handles about 10 million tons of cargo a year. Steel coils, cement, gravel, liquid chemicals that are used in our factories to fuel our economy. We also measured the carbon emissions from tugboats, the Army Corps of Engineer work, law enforcement vessels, as well as passenger vessels and cruise ships. Second, we had a goal of developing a set of practical action steps to achieve net zero by 2040. I want to extend my thanks to our terminal operators, owners of vessels, tugboats, and law enforcement marine divisions for working with us to share the data that we needed to measure our carbon footprint, and for joining our Low Carbon Port Committee to carry on the work of decarbonizing over the next 15 to 20 years. Without their voluntary cooperation, this plan would not have been possible. I must also thank our community partner, Southwest Detroit Environmental Vision, which has been working on the front lines of environmental justice and fighting for clean air for decades. Also, we're incredibly indebted to the original citizens of Southwest Detroit, another grassroots organization that has worked with us to develop this plan and ensure that community members have shared their experiences and are going to be part of the plan's implementation. Today's announcement isn't just to inform the public of our 28,000 tons of annual carbon emissions. We are here to talk about action steps and collaborations that will be necessary to reach net zero. We are seeking grants to add electric forklifts and trucks to our port operations, solar panels on our roofs to increase the amount of zero emission electricity we generate, and to expand our capability to fuel ships with lower emission fuels like biodiesel. We are researching the best options for true zero emission fuels that will help us get there. Please go to our website, portdetroit.com, and click on the Sustainability tab to learn more about the work we're doing and to stay informed. I'd like to ask Emily Alexander from Toonley Environmental to say a few words about the data we are releasing today.
Thank you, Mark. So I work with Toonley Environmental. We are doing the technical consulting and the environmental and data collection aspect of this project. So I just wanted to talk a bit about that process. So the first step in terms of understanding our emissions and to be able to reduce them is to do this data collection and gathering in order to get this baseline assessment. So I really want to commend the terminal operators and the businesses in the Port of Detroit region for allowing us to do this work and for providing this accurate data to understand what this overall emissions is in the region. So the Port of Detroit has, as Mark said, just under 28,000 tons of carbon dioxide. I'll give you guys a little fun piece of information to visualize this. As the draft is happening this week, you can imagine the total volume of carbon dioxide that 28,000 tons is. If you compress it into a single space, it would be about the size of 39 Ford fields. So it's a lot of carbon dioxide. Overall, about 55% of these emissions come from trucking related to port activity, 30% from shipping, and then the remaining 15% from goods handling equipment on site that actually moves this large commodities around the sites. It's also, as we consider the next steps, we are planning on this implementation as following this. So now that we know where we're at with our baseline assessment, we can plan on where to go next. So I'll give you guys a quick overview of the steps and the strategy for emission reductions. Our first is to implement biodiesel in all current diesel engines. Biodiesel is a drop-in replacement, and it immediately reduces carbon emissions and also harmful air pollutants like particulate matter. So it's an immediate, and it's not really expensive because we don't have to change any pieces of equipment. So biodiesel is our first strategy that we're encouraging these operators to pursue. The next is electrification, and this obviously is zero emissions at the tailpipe, so it can have really big opportunities for harmful emission reductions as well as carbon reductions. And then finally, we're hoping to invest in things like hydrogen and other low carbon fuels in the future once those technologies are more widely available for our larger vessels. The next steps are our implementation, and we hope to continue working with our terminal operators, the Port Authority, and community partners to pursue implementation and to get funding to help these businesses be able to do this as quickly as possible. Thank you.
Thanks, Emily. Now, I wanted to say, our decarbonization plan is aimed at 2040 and getting down to net zero by then, but that's our long-term goal. Our immediate goal is to improve air quality today. The port region is one of the has one of the highest rates of asthma and other illnesses from poor air quality, and our citizens can't wait for 2040. And so we're tackling particulate matter and working with our terminal operators to improve their practices in keeping fugitive dust from migrating off of their properties, working with truck owners to reduce the impact on neighborhoods in the area. And I wanted to invite Teresa Landrum up to talk a little bit about that, because she and the original United Citizens of Southwest Detroit, get the name right, have been working and fighting for clean air for decades. And so we couldn't have done this without their input, and it's really important to understand the real life impacts of carbon emissions as well as other industrial activities that happen in the port. Teresa?
Thank you, Mark. As Mark said, I am Teresa Landrum. I am the president of the original United Citizens of Southwest Detroit. In working with the Detroit Port Authority on this project, it was about the people, community engagement, the people that are being impacted. And as we know, Detroit has been suffering in latter years with some of the worst air quality in the nation. In Detroit, we are right now the leader in asthma hospitalizations in the nation, and that's important. So working on this project to reduce carbon emissions is something that is vital to help us fight climate change and help us to improve the quality of air for our residents. So as we see these projects coming together, working with our marine terminals and our truck terminals, and we know that 3% of the carbon emissions nationally and even across the world come from maritime traffic, truck traffic, and light trucks and heavy trucks are some of the things that we can work on to reduce their footprint and therefore lessen the impact of poor air quality on our children and on ourselves. So thank you so very much.
Thanks, Teresa. As I just want to reiterate our strategies moving forward. Immediately and as much as possible, we're calling for a shift from regular diesel to biodiesel with the highest blend as possible. This change does not require anyone to change their engines. It can be a drop-in replacement fuel. California, Illinois, and other states have been doing this as an immediate action step. In the long term, we're looking at battery electric, perhaps hydrogen-fueled equipment in the port, and for heavy-duty trucks. The ships we need some breakthroughs in terms of fuel technology to hit net zero on the ships. But in the meantime, if we do biodiesel, we can reduce emissions by up to 70%. So those are our action steps. There's more on our website. And if you sign up for updates, we'll keep you informed, and stay tuned for what's next. Open it up to questions if there are any.
Yeah, you were talking about deleting hospitalization in terms of asthma. What is the consequence if we don't start today? I mean, I think when it comes to environmentalism, a lot of people, they don't feel the effect until it affects them. But the reality is every day that we don't do this, what is the reality of what our kids and our grandkids could be living in?
Sure. I mean, maritime activity accounts for about 3% of global emissions, and so it's incumbent upon all parts of the maritime world to do what we can to make sure that we don't exceed that 1.5 Celsius degree increase in global emissions by 2040. And so if we want to avoid the worst effects of climate change, we've got to start taking action now. And that's why we want to push for biodiesel immediately, because we can start reducing emissions today. We ultimately want to have completely zero emissions, but we have to start now. With respect to air quality, the sooner we can change our fuel sources to zero emission, the better the air quality will be. We're seeing it in other regions of the country where there's been a big shift to battery electric vehicles. Air quality is improving. And so that's important for us today, not just 2040. So we need clean air, and we need to save the planet.
When you talk about the port, you're not talking this building. We're talking, kind of talk to the folks at home that
Sure.
have no idea. It's not the cruise ship that's going to pull up in your dock. This is, what is it?
Sure, it includes the cruise ships. We have a carbon footprint from these cruise ships, and we're going to encourage them to switch to biodiesel. But you're right, the Port of Detroit really consists of 18 privately owned cargo terminals that move heavy bulk materials. So one of them is our steel plant, Cleveland Cliffs, which used to be the old Ford Rouge plant. We have several cement terminals along the riverfront, St. Mary's Cement, Holcim, and others that bring in road building materials that are used to in construction materials that are used here. We have a general cargo dock run by Nicholson Terminal and Dock Company, and they bring in steel coils that are used in making automobiles. There's a variety of terminal operators, liquid fuel and other kinds of liquid products that are brought in. We don't have those massive container ships that you saw in Baltimore, but we do bring in lots of raw materials, and it's really the basis for our local economy. Detroit was built, or the auto capital was built here because of our proximity to raw materials up north, these waterways that allowed that material to be brought here. Coal is another big commodity that comes in that's used in the steel plants to make that steel.
Thank you.
All right. Well, thank you for coming. And we will share links of everything that we have. And if there's other questions you have, or if you want to do something downstairs, or
Can I just get both of your first and last name spelling?
Yep. Emily, E-M-I-L-Y, Alexander, A-L-E-S.
Good question. Thank you.
Thank you, appreciate it.
And your time.
Recently